Okay, it's Sunday, so against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what questions are around today. We didn't do this last week, by the way, because it was April Fool's, so Overwatch University was doing something very hilarious at the time, which was very funny, yes, but also very inconvenient for me, but we're back to normal now. So, let's see what we got. Having a way better time as Moira, thanks to you guys. Reddit being helpful doesn't sound likely. Which maps, attack/defense, are best for Sombra? Sombra used to be very map-dependent, and she was very heavily in favor of 2CP maps, or maps that had very focal mega health kits. But since her rework, she is not so much that way anymore. She's not so much map-dependent anymore as she is more team comp-dependent. Like, she's very good against people like, Genji tanks, supports that aren't Moira, Pharah. Like, she's very good at countering certain things on the enemy team, and honestly, I've seen a lot of people playing her very similarly to, like, Soldier or Genji at this point, so it's not so much map dependence anymore as it is more sort of team comp dependence, really. Seeing as she doesn't revolve around just farming her emp off of the health kits anymore, she's more just sort of about creating opportunities and fucking with the enemy, basically. I do think she has a slight favor towards attack, because the defenders are typically more huddled together, which makes it easier to get an emp on multiple enemies, which I think is still a very big part of Sombra, so I think she's very slightly favored towards attack, but map-wise I don't think it really matters that much anymore. Is this a question? What am I supposed to do when my team insists on taking every fight 1v6? This happened 10 times in a row now. I do my best to call for a regroup, but someone always peeks and dies. I can't do anything about it as a support main. I want to play tank or DPS, but then we do not have any healers. Please help. So, really, like, the best you can reasonably do is ask people to stop dying and regroup, you know? That's about the best you can do, and if they won't, there isn't that much you can do about it, because unfortunately, as much as we wish we could, we can't control other people. So, if you're a support main, the best thing you can do, if you try to communicate with them and you can't get them to do it, whatever, and they still just keep doing it, the best you can do is figure out who the best player on your team is, and pocket the fuck out of that player, and just hope that that person carries the team because they're the best player in the game. That's the best you can do if your team is going to keep staggering. I mean, you can try and get them to stop staggering, but if they don't want to, they don't want to. There's not much you can do about that. Just find the best player on your team and try to pocket the shit out of them. Advice for gaining SR as a flex. It's really hard. Like, it depends on how much you want to flex, right? Like, if you are comfortable just playing any role, then just like pick one or two heroes out of each role, get really good at them, and then just play them. If you want to flex as, like, more specifically than that, like, you want to be able to pick any hero in the game, reasonably, because they're the best fit for the team comp, invest a fuck lot of time into the game, because you're not going to be as good at those heroes as somebody who has just spent 1,000 hours on McCree, right? Like, if you just want to flex role, just pick a couple of heroes in each role, one or two, and get really good at them, and then just pick whichever role, right? If you want to flex as any hero, just play the game a fucking lot, basically. Like, play the game a lot. Because, basically, if you can play a lot of heroes, you can play a lot of heroes alright, but you can't play those heroes, like, exceptionally, right? So, really, you're making sure everybody else is comfortable, and you're expecting them to carry, and you're going to fill in the gap at the end. So, if you're a flex player, fundamentally you want to make yourself as carryable as possible, which sounds like an insult, but it isn't really. Because, it's just a more supportive mindset than anything else. It's like, alright, you know, I don't need to be the best, I'll just make sure my team are playing really well instead, and I'll just fill in whatever gap is left over. Just pick a couple heroes, get pretty good at them, and just try not to do stupid shit. Just try to make yourself as carryable as possible, and try to... this is also a situation where you would want to identify whichever players are best on your team and try to help them as much, because you being just average and not exceptional, you are not likely to hard carry that many games, so it will be often more about helping the people who are carrying the games than anything else. It requires an adjustment of mindset, I would say, more than anything else. Pick my video apart now. Is the reduced buffering bug still in the game? That's the Alt-Tab thing, right? Every time you Alt-Tab that to full screen. I think it is still an issue people have, I'm not certain. Diamond and above Orisa mains, which of these two spots do you prefer to hold on Junkertown? I'm not an Orisa main, but I do play a lot of tanks, so I have input. Okay. Well, definitely this one. I don't like this one, because the enemy team can shoot at the shield from such a concealed location that it's really easy to break this bubble and not really expose yourself that much. Whereas over here, it's harder to break the bubble without exposing yourself, and you have better vision over the areas that you're likely to get flanked by, so I much prefer the second position. Orisa tips. So, basic, advanced. Basic or as advanced as you see fit. So, if you're trying to push as Orisa, make sure you're pushing around the cooldown of your shield. Don't put the shield down and then start walking forward. You have to wait for your shield cooldown to actually push forward. Try to use Fortify to absorb the brunt of damage before you actually take it, which sounds obvious, but then, like, people usually wait until they're really low health until they actually use Fortify. Now, you want to use it while you're still healthy when you're about to take as much damage as you think you're about to take. What's a good example? Fuck, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. You want to use it whenever you're about to take... Oh, like D.Va's coming at you, right? You want to use Fortify right as D.Va's, like, coming to collide with you, because that's when D.Va's going to do the biggest burst of damage, right? The point is you want to reduce as much damage as possible with Fortify. There's no point using it after you've already taken a bunch of damage. So, like, D.Va... when she charges in at you, that's when she does the most damage, because she's coming at you, she's firing her missiles and her guns, then she collides with you, punches you, all that. That's the biggest amount of damage she does to you. So you want to nullify as much of that as possible, rather than waiting until she has collided with you and then using Fortify, because at that point she's already done her big burst. You could have blocked more damage. Much higher end if shooting your shield up in the air when you're kind of playing a shield war with the other team, because that way the cooldown's ticking while it's in the air, but it doesn't actually, but then it doesn't replace the shield on the ground until it actually lands. So the cooldown is ticking while it's still while the shield is still down, and therefore you get to use your shield more frequently, essentially. You can get punished for that, because if you shoot it up in the air and then they push in at that exact moment, they kill you. But if you're playing a more protracted, like, poking, prodding game, shooting your shield up in the air to maximize the cooldown is something. If you're more lower end again, when you use Halt, try to aim it off the ground, because most people just throw it along the ground, which pulls them together, yes, but if you fire it off the ground so the enemy team actually has to drop, it effectively gives it more crowd control, because they don't regain control of their hero until they land. So if they get pulled in and they're just at the ground, they scatter again. If they get yanked up, they have to fall, and then they can start moving around again. So you extend the crowd control effect, basically. And those are the only things I can think of off the top of my head. So, this is kind of embarrassing, but how do you deal with Torbjorn's turret as Tracer? Typically, it depends. If it's kind of off by itself, you can basically just go up, blink up to it, shoot it, and then recall. If the enemy team is kind of around it, typically you do just build up your ult as fast as possible, then blink up and pulse bomb the turret or the people around the turret if they're all kind of bunched up together. The turret is very annoying for Tracer. Usually people just pulse bomb it because that's the easiest thing to do unless it's off by itself, in which case it's less of an issue. What is the best way to practice Genji's ult? Go play deathmatch. That's the best place to practice mechanics, where you don't have to worry about, like, dragging your team down or anything like that. So if you want to practice any mechanical aspect of your hero, deathmatch is, like, the best place to do it, really. Because it's basically just extended fighting constantly. How do I improve with Soldier 76? It's a very broad question, isn't it? So, I watch people skim. Watch other play. What do you do? Practice versus bots? No. I get used to the movement of the bot, not so like the aim. Yeah. How do I improve my aim with Soldier 76 specifically? Just play deathmatch. Just, you know, it's the best thing you can do to practice mechanics, basically. It's just constant fighting all the time. And any mechanical aspect. That's like the best thing you can do, really. Any tips for flex support, Lucio Animane in 2018, current year? Disgusting. Any tips for flex support? Oh, I'm trying, Moira. Any tips for flex support? If the other healer is a main healer, so Ana, Mercy, or Moira, pick Lucio or Zenyatta, because the benefit of having a Lucio or a Zenyatta is they have the strongest defensive ultimates on the game. In the game, rather. English is a stupid language. And that's very important because certain ultimates are just much easier to deal with if you have a sound barrier or transcendence. And they're some of the scariest ultimates. Dragon Blade, Tact Visor, Graviton, Earth Shatter, even. All of these things can be negated with transcendence, and sound barrier also works to a lesser extent. So if the other healer is a main healer, you are usually better off picking an off healer because they have the strongest defensive ultimates. Usually I see people go like Mercy, Moira a lot. The problem is with that is neither support has a very strong defensive ultimate, so it just makes it easier for you to get fucked by things like Dragon Blade and Tact Visor, or Earth Shatter Graviton. So that's like the biggest thing I would say for flex support is other healer's a main healer, pick an off healer, because the defensive ultimate will pay dividends most likely. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the enemy team is like Sombra, Tracer, but like that's very much the exception. Why don't good Tracer players just pulse bomb tanks instead of risking a whiff? The thing is, with using pulse bomb on tanks, is that if you can't guarantee follow-up damage, the tank doesn't die. And a lot of tanks have ways to negate it, like Orisa has Fortify. So you have to get Orisa to blow Fortify first, or get her low enough that even if she uses Fortify, she still dies to pulse bomb. Zarya can use her bubble, so you have to play around that cooldown. Roadhog can use Take a Breather, so you have to play around that cooldown. Also, it leaves him with 200 health, so you have to still do follow-up damage. So the thing is, with pulse bombing tanks, is that you have to know you can do follow-up damage, or it will kill them regardless. The thing is with pulse bomb, though, is if you just, like, slide up to the Mercy and press it right onto her face, there's nothing she can do about it. Like, if you get decent at landing the pulse bomb, it's basically just a guaranteed or very close to pick on a squishy target, or more if they're clustered together. And there's nothing they can really do about it, right? Like, the Mercy has to get saved by, like, a really fucking sick Lucio sound barrier or a Zarya. There's nothing they can do about it. So as long as you just get mechanically good at sticking them, there isn't much they can do about it. A tank requires more elements to come into play, so it's just that, like, the risk of the whiff is usually lower than the risk of not being able to do the follow-up damage to the tank. Soldier, Sombra, or Pharah, which isn't worth learning? They're all worth learning. Like, here's the thing. If you want to play the hero, just play the fucking hero. I don't care who it is. I don't care if they're top tier or absolute bottom tier. If it's the hero you want to play, learn how to play that fucking hero. It's a video game. You should have fun playing the video game. So don't, like, force yourself to play a hero that you don't necessarily want to play just because it's better than the others, right? Pick whichever one you want to pick. On strict value terms, Soldier is the most versatile pick, so if you're just looking for fits in most circumstances, Soldier's the best one. The one that fits in the least situations is probably Sombra, but even so, like, the difference between them all is quite slim, really. Like, you can play all of them in most situations, honestly. Not all situations, don't come at me with your fucking outlier. Well, obviously, if the enemy team is fucking Ana, Widowmaker, Soldier, McCree, Zenyatta, you wouldn't want to pick Pharah. Yeah, fucking obviously. Most of the time, you can play any of these heroes and they're perfectly fine. The one that is probably the least useful is Sombra, but, like, really, it's a fairly slim margin. Do whichever you want. I recently played a game as Mercy pocketing our Pharah. When he ulted, I didn't know if I should heal or damage boost, which is correct. Depends. If you think the Pharah is about to take a lot of damage, which she probably is because she's using Barrage, you'll want to heal her, but if it looks like... If she's in a really good situation to just hit a bunch of people really quickly, if you damage boost her, she'll probably kill those people quicker. It's one of those things like where if you choose to heal the Pharah, that is very unlikely to have catastrophic results, whereas damage boosting her can, but you might end up missing kills as a result. If you think she's gonna take damage, then just use the healing beam. If she's in a really sick situation and she's already like full health, just use the damage boost, because she'll probably kill them quickly enough. But like, if you don't know for certain, just use the healing beam, because it's unlikely to be, like... It's never going to be the wrong choice, basically. Whereas the damage boost can be, but sometimes the damage not using the damage boost will miss out on potential value. So, is this normal or am I doing something wrong? I'm new to online gaming, and since I started playing this game, sometimes I hate messages and even death threats. Kill yourself, you growl. Yeah, for no reason. I'm not toxic, I don't get them often, but it depresses me. Yeah, that's how it is. People when they're given the veil of animosity, anonymity. The veil of animosity is what they come in with. The veil of anonymity. People tend to turn into absolute cunts. So, it's just something you kind of have to deal with. I mean, well, it shouldn't be expected. No, you're right. In a fucking ideal world, it shouldn't be expected, but unfortunately, very many things about our world are not ideal. This is, unfortunately, just part and parcel of playing video games online, is that there are cunts, and you have to deal with them. I choose to deal with as few cunts as possible. This is why I don't join the voice chat, because there are so very many cunts out there that I just don't want to deal with it. And it is, unfortunately, just part of life on the internet, particularly when playing competitive multiplayer games. So, unfortunately, yeah, you just kind of have to deal with it. Now, you know, it sucks that that's the case, but that is the case. Why does it take so long for me to warm up, reach my actual skill? It varies from person to person. Like, some people will take longer, and some people don't have to warm up at all. I don't really feel like I need to warm up. I just kind of go. But I've also played this game for thousands of hours, so maybe it's rich for me to say. Any unconventional tips for playing with Junkrat as main? I don't know enough about Junkrat to really say. Gold medal worries. When I play my 2 off-tanks are in Roadhog at Platinum rank, I end up with gold. I don't give a shit if you have gold limbs and objective kills. It's really easy to get those. If you have gold damage, I mean, if you're fucking walking around at 100% charge all the time, yeah, you absolutely will have gold damage. If you fucking ulted a bunch of people as Roadhog, yeah, you're gonna have gold damage. Like, it's not that big of an issue. Like, these tanks are designed to do damage. Like, damage is part of how they operate as tanks. They zone because they have a big damage threat, so it's not surprising. And, like, limbs and objective kills are so easy to get. Like, it's not really a thing. Watched a lot pick up on things. I've noticed, however, a lot of mistakes on both sides that are pretty large. Well, more than one can do. Watch like, the thing is, right, you have to remember that people aren't robots, right? Like, nobody plays perfectly 100% of the time. So, like, you are going to see these things happen, and, like, here's the thing as well. Every elo is elo hell, so, like, everybody's trash. Don't worry, up in Masters, people are still trash. Up in Grandmasters, people are still trash. Like, it doesn't stop. Even top 500, people are still trash. Like, don't worry, it happens all the time. it's how life is. I'm under no illusion that I'm a top 5 silver stuck with fools, but I cannot find the strategy to solo climb. Fill one-tricking stats farming, not working here. Skim this real quick. I mean, the problem is that you aren't likely to feel the improvement happening, right? There is no fast way to improve, right? And this, all the time we talk about this. You aren't gonna suddenly be fantastic overnight, right? Like, climbing is a marathon, not a sprint. Like, you don't perceive yourself improving at the time. What happens is, several months later, you look back and go, fuck, I was really bad, I've gotten a lot better. Like, you don't feel it happening at the time. Because as you get better, you climb, and therefore you're playing against people who are better, in theory. So you never get to the point where you're just stomping people. So it never really feels like you're getting better. And this is the thing as well. When it's a team game, there's an amount of variance involved, because you will win some games through no fault of your own, and you will lose games through no fault of your own, and there's nothing you can do to avoid that. The whole point of playing a multiplayer game, a team game, I should say, competitively, is that you're saying, I'm good. Right, I'm good, so I'm going to play well consistently. And because I am playing well consistently, there are less people on my team that can be bad than on their team. So over a large enough course of games, I will climb to where I should be because I'm playing consistently well. So I will just over time climb. You have to be fucking incredible at the game to actually climb quickly, right? To actually, like, carry a game. Like, hard carry a game. You have to be, like, 2 or 3 tiers above the tier of the game you're playing in, right? If you're a fucking, like, diamond player in bronze should be able to hard carry that game, right? Some of them still can't, but that's a different issue. You have to be a lot better than the game you're playing in now to, like, hard carry it, because that's just how Overwatch is as a game. It's very team-based. So you just kind of have to grind out a lot of games. That's just how it is. There's no fast strategy to climbing, really. The best I would say is just pick a couple heroes, get really good at them, and just play those heroes. I only play Reinhardt and I play Moira. And Reinhardt is seen as a trash hero right now by the majority of the community. I have a fucking 65% win ratio with Reinhardt. Get really good at a couple of heroes and you'll be able to carry games or just play consistently well enough to climb games, right? Like, that's how it is. People have fucked up expectations because they watch pro players, and yeah, of course they fucking zoom to the top of the charts, don't they? But, like, not everybody's like that. It takes time. At what health thresholds do barriers show their different damage states? Reinhardt's is 1,000, and I don't know the exact delineation. I know there's one for 500, I think, and I think there's another one in there somewhere. I don't know. The important one is the one at a half health, because once the Reinhardt shield gets to half health, that's when he's probably going to start moving out of the way. So, anyone else notice a difference in play depending on the time of day? Yeah, like, that's just variance that happens because of the amount of people playing and the time of day. There's a lot of things that go into that, but yes, that happens. Quick question about tanking on 2CP. So you're playing main tank on 2CP attack and your teammates are getting picked off. Should you take the 5v6 and try to pick one off? Or should you reset and wait for the 6v6? You should wait for the 6v6 because there's no... Why would you ever want to take a fight that's not in your favor, right? Like, ideally, you would never take a fight that was not in your favor, right? You would always want it to be slanted in your favor, but that's not realistic. You never want it to be in favor of the enemy team, so ideally you can wait for the 6v6. This is not always feasible depending on your teammates. If the person that's missing is not necessarily pivotal, if, like, you've got 5 ultimates and the dude that's dead doesn't have his ultimate, you probably don't need to wait for him, because you'll probably win without him in that situation. But if the person is very pivotal, i.e. your main healer and your other healer is Zenyatta, wait for him to get back. You usually want to wait for the 6v6. If the person doesn't seem incredibly important right now, or you have a fantastic opportunity in front of you, go for it. But really, you should wait for the 6v6. It will vary heavily depending on your teammates, though, because it's never that easy, really. How do you do well as Doomfist? Wait for him to get buffed in the future, because he's going to get a bug fix that increases the hitbox on his punch, so he'll be a lot more consistent, probably. He's getting better as they slowly fix all these bugs, so one day, soon. Right now, it's be a god, but if you just wait, it'll probably be easier. So I have a friend that says she is easily one of the worst heroes in the... she's easily Orisa is one of the worst heroes in the game. No. I have a dimmer opinion of Orisa than the majority of people, because most people are like, Orisa Roadhog is fucking dominating. Orisa's a bad main tank. Okay, look. She's a bad main tank. Well, if her team supports her, no. Get out of here. You're attaching too many qualifiers. Why does Orisa need her team to play around her for her to be a main tank? Roadhog could be a main tank if he has 5 healers, right? Like, this is not... No. I think Orisa's a bad main tank. I think she's a great off tank, but I think she's a very bad main tank. She's definitely not one of the worst heroes in the game. That's definitely not right, but I think she's a great off tank, not a good main tank. When should you not take high ground as soldier? When you are needed right now in the team fight, basically. Like, you do not have time to reposition to the high ground, because a fight's about to start, or a fight is currently starting, and it would take me like 5 seconds to get to the high ground. If you're needed right fucking now, you should not go to the high ground, but there are almost no other situations where you would want to avoid the high ground. Sometimes standing up there is perilous because they have like a Widowmaker, but really, as long as you aren't needed at this particular moment, you should go to the high ground. What actually is the real Elo hell? How do I get out? You don't. It's all the way up. It's all the way up, it's all the way down. You never escape. Because someone give me some tips on how to play Doomfist. Wait. When is Hanzo actually a better pick than any other hero? Okay, so here's like the best argument I got for you. Hanzo is sort of viewed as being a counter to Widowmaker because Hanzo can just aim roughly at where Widowmaker is and peek a corner over and over again until she's dead. Whereas the Widow has to actually shoot the Hanzo when he exposes himself, and he's doing it around a corner, a projectile hero, blah, blah, blah. So, technically, that would be a good time to pick Hanzo, but really... so the actual best time to pick Hanzo is if they have a relatively static comp, and by that I mean they have something like Reinhardt, Bastion, Orisa. Because then what you can do is you can just build up your ult, and fire Dragon Strike at them, and they have to move, basically. And if you have a Zarya, easy money, right? Dragon Strike, Graviton is a good ult combo. And you can try and, like, scatter skill past the shields and kill Bastion. You know, that's basically the best time to pick Hanzo. But people would debate with you that there's ever a good time to pick Hanzo. So I am of the opinion there are not really any times that he's better than any other hero, but that's why he's about to get, like, probably a fairly large-scale rework. So, I enjoy playing both Tracer and Genji. When and why should I play Tracer over Genji? It seems Genji has more utility in general with vertical mobility and abilities, and arguably better ultimate than Tracers. So why should I ever play Tracer over Genji? The Tracer applies a lot more pressure than Genji does. Genji wins games by making big plays with Dragon Blade, and he is also just a much safer pick than Tracer, because Dragon Blade is quite easy to execute mechanically, so there's a larger, smaller room for variance with Genji, because it's basically just about farming Dragon Blade and then making big plays with it. And trying to get picks in the interim period. But a lot of Genji revolves around Dragon Blade. Tracer is not like that. She is less dependent on her ultimate. Her ultimate is worse than Genji's, but it's still good. The thing is, though, that Tracer applies massively more pressure than Genji does, because Tracer does a lot of damage, and she's very hard to kill. So, a Tracer that is harassing your Mercy is a lot scarier than a Genji that's harassing your Mercy, right? Because, like, a Winston, fucking Genji's gone, right? Like, Tracer can actually still blink up to the Mercy and, like, one-clip her, and Winston can't kill her in time, right? Like, so, the reason to pick Tracer over Genji is just that you apply a much more constant stream of pressure, and you can just, like, kill people at any point in the game, right? Like, Genji kind of needs either people to fuck up or to have his ultimate. Tracer can just, like, come up next to somebody, drill into their head, and kill them in, like, a second flat, right? So if you're good at Tracer, you fucking apply huge amounts of pressure. The thing is, you have to be good at Tracer to actually do that, but that's why you would pick Tracer over Genji. She applies a lot more pressure and has a lot higher kill pressure than Genji does. Unless he has his ultimate. Good tracking, but poor game sense. Best hero for me. Soldier 76, probably. Or Orisa, maybe? Orisa's not so game sense. She's probably the lightest game sense of all the tanks. It's probably Soldier or Orisa. I think I got ranked too high after my placement matches. This happens to some people. Most of my games are decided by who has the better Widow. This used to be such a common issue. Pick Winston. The thing is that when you get high enough up, there is a point where it does actually start to feel like that, where people are like, if you got two people who are confident Widow players, then yeah, it can feel that way, because the really good Widow player is hard to deal with. But I think the way our stupid monkey brains are, it's just bad experiences stand out more in our minds, so it's probably not as much of an issue as you think it is. But it does sort of happen. Hi guys, Genji for a while now, but I do not do as well with him. But with him I do well with him, but not as well as I do with Doomfist. Even though I put 20... My question is, should I completely ditch Genji off my hero pool and focus on Doomfist? Whichever hero you want to play that hero. You know, whichever you prefer, really. Doomfist is worse, like, on paper than Genji is, but if you want to play Doomfist. I ain't gonna stop you. You should play whoever you want to play. What is the best place to defend, and how can I attack the Blizzard World? Oh, God, Blizzard World. He attacks it on attacking and defending. I main range, so is he good on the map? Yeah, I've had fine experience playing Reinhardt on Blizzard World. It's just the Blizzard World is kind of a fuck. I need to think about that one. I'm gonna sit here just like contemplating for like 20 minutes on that one. So fuck. What does the red mean? In the red kill feed, sometimes an ultimate or an ability you use to kill someone is red. That's because it got a headshot. Dragon Strike, for example, can be a headshot because Hanzo fires an arrow, and then the arrow turns into the dragon. So if you are close enough, if you get hit in the head by the arrow before it turns into a dragon, it will be red in the kill feed because you died to a headshot Dragon Strike. Quick play frustration idea for new... Fuck. Anyone know good Riptire routes for any map specifically? That's like... That's so vague. The road less traveled is traditionally good. Whichever way. The way people are least likely to be looking at, which I know sounds vague, but it's a vague question, and that's the most, like, generically good answer to give to it, whichever way the team is probably not looking. Failing that, just very high. You can, like, there are quite a few places where you can ramp it up a wall, and then, like, come around the corner and drop down on the enemy team. It's hard to do, like, this kind of movement very suddenly, so, whereas if it's roughly ground level, it's easier to react to. So, the route they're least likely to be looking at, failing that as high as you can get it, usually. And now we've gone through 2 pages, and that's about a 30-minute video, so that's good enough for me. So thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful.